Here are 10 steps to making your first indie game successful based on this book, GAMEDEV, by Wlad Marhulets, the creator of the indie game Dark. If you're currently working on your first game, or if you think about making one, keep watching, because it's book summary time! Imagine being born in Belarus, surrounded by poverty, being able to escape to Poland without knowing the language. Your parents end up having a horrible divorce that makes headlines in the local newspapers, and because of that you develop some severe stuttering, you are completely bankrupt, you can't put any food on the table, you have no heating in winter, cause that is exactly the situation Wlad found himself in. I think I've been making games in easy mode all this time. Holy hell, that's insane! He decided he wanted to become a music composer, went to the United States, and managed to get a full scholarship at the Juilliard School, which seems to be one of the most prestigious music schools in New York, basically. There he started his career as a musician and then eventually decided he wanted to get into game dev. Without knowing anything about game development, just 3.5 years later he released his first successful indie game, Dark. That story really shows the importance of mindset. The most important thing about mindset is taking action. Like, every action you take works like a free lottery ticket. The more lottery tickets you have, the bigger your chances of winning. You need to take responsibility of your life. You need to stop the excuses. Don't blame your circumstances. If Wlad managed to do it, so can you. Once you're ready to start making games, the first step is pre-production. That is the point where you put in a lot of effort to research what are current trends, what are your competitors doing, look up some other games, some other companies, like what works for them, how many people worked on each game, what was the budget for their games. That should give you a rough idea for what to expect for your own projects. There are so many things to think about, like the scope of your game, the marketability, the hook. Is this something people will want to share? What is the core emotion of your game? How long do you want to be? The genre? What are your personal strengths? In other words, think and do your research before you get started. It will save you a lot of time later on. Unfortunately, it's almost impossible to make a game without spending any sort of money. You'll almost definitely have to spend at the very least a little bit of money. The best thing you can do is to keep your expenses as low as possible, because that is easier than raising money, and also it will make it easier to make a profitable game, because the less money you spend, the less money you need to make in order to be profitable. Don't rush to quit your job. Don't take that risk. It makes sense to keep your job at the very least for a while, okay? And then there are a couple of other ways you can try to get some money for your game. For example, Patreon. You can try to get a grant. There are personal loans, crowdfunding, publishers, investors. Just be a little bit careful when signing with a publisher, because not all of them have your best interest in mind. So make sure you're getting a good deal before you move ahead with that. If you're wondering how to get a publisher in the first place, I can only recommend this GDC talk. I'll put a link in the description. Development. This is the core part, of course. All of the information and all of the tools you need to make games nowadays are freely available online. All you gotta do is put in the work, but also you need to make sure the process stays enjoyable for you, because let's face it, if it's not enjoyable, you're gonna quit very soon. Get familiar with some game design basics, like focus on one core game mechanic. Don't spread your focus too much on too many different things. Try to make a game that is easy to learn and difficult to master. Game design is a very wide and complex topic. I recommend you educate yourself. One channel where you can do that is the channel of Mark Brown, has some excellent videos. I have a couple of videos on that as well. The way you should make and design a game is using iterative design. That means you try something out, you make a quick prototype of something, then you see how it works, right? You test it, you analyze it, and then you refine it. And you repeat that process over and over again. You should also let other people test the game, of course. So prototyping, testing, analyzing, refining. Repeat. Don't rush the release. When your game is like 90% done, you really want to take your time to put in those last 10%, which can take a long time, but it's absolutely worth it. You want to make sure everything works. You want to make sure everything feels nice and is polished. Like, those last 10% can be the difference between a success and a failure, so don't rush the release. Business. As a game developer, you're also a business person now. If you want it or not, you have to get familiar with business and law at the very least a little bit. Sooner or later, you probably want to register a company for your game, and it just makes sense to get a lawyer at some point as well, for the end user license agreement, for the privacy policy, for the non-disclosure agreements. In case you want to hire any freelancers, you can get some help for setting up the work for hire contracts, etc, etc. When it's about money, arguments can easily arise. Stop those arguments from happening early on by setting the work relationship into stone with a contract when working together. I remember being pretty scared of all of that stuff, but then when I finally got into it, it was actually not that difficult. So just do it. Once again, it's all about taking action. Nowadays, unfortunately, making a good game is not enough as well. You also need to worry about marketing and PR. are. You need to build a community. The best place to do that nowadays is on social media, of course. And if you want to build a following on social media, you need to provide value in the form of entertainment or in the form of information. Just promoting your own stuff and expecting it to work, not a good plan. At the very least for building an audience. You have to set up some really good marketing materials, screenshots, GIFs, text, and of course, most importantly, a good trailer, good video footage of your game. Check out the video on how to make a good game trailer by Mark Brown. Absolute must watch for every game developer. And of course, making good marketing material is a lot easier if you have a good looking game. Having good marketing material is of course essential for selling your game. And another one of the really important things you need to do is you need to learn how to pitch your game to publishers, to the press. A nice 2-sentence pitch about your game. It needs to really catch and hook people. If somebody asks you what kind of game are you making, gotta have a really good answer ready, basically. Will You Snail is a fast-paced platformer about a snail. Distribution nowadays is luckily extremely easy, especially on PC. A little harder on consoles, but PC and mobile, pretty straightforward. It can still make sense to get a publisher because they can provide a lot of services. All publishers provide different kinds of services. They can provide feedback, funding, quality assurance, which is basically professional testing. They can send your game to conventions and awards. You can use their existing customer base. They can handle distribution and porting to other platforms. They can help you with localization and community management. It can still make sense to just self-publish your game though, because that will allow you to develop your own skills, build your own audience. You'll have more control both creatively as well as over your business. And of course, it's also a little bit less back and forth, which can also speed up the development process a little bit. So basically, you'll just have to decide yourself which route you want to go. Both is very valid. Prepared for launch. You don't want to be unprepared for launch. The most important thing is that you set up your store page early so you can start collecting a lot of wish lists, especially on Steam. Be careful about announcing a release date if this is the first time you make a game, right? Make sure it's 100% finished before you do that. Also be smart and big brain about when you want your release date to be. Don't release during E3 or during a Steam sale if possible. No. And then just create everything you'll need for launch beforehand, because launching a game is very stressful. You want to have everything you need ready when it's time to launch the game. Reach out to press about 3 weeks before you launch your game. Also give them an embargo date, which is basically just you asking them in a friendly way to please not publish their reviews before your game's out, and that way you'll get more traffic on launch day. If your game managed to build a lot of momentum, it makes sense to get help for launch. A couple of people that just look through the comments, make sure the game is working fine for everybody, because you'll be very busy on launch day, most likely. For launch, you want to have a step-by-step plan ready of all of the things you want to do on launch day. All of the social media posts, best prepare them beforehand. The Steam announcement, you want to have the newsletter ready. You want to send out to your email list in case you have an email list. Perhaps you want to do a live stream. So just having a nice to-do list, I feel like for launch day makes a lot of sense. You want to look out for bugs, of course, make sure all of those stupid bugs are fixed. But also breathe, celebrate, you've done it. Congratulations. Whatever happens. If the game doesn't sell as well as you expected, that's just the way it is. Actually, nowadays it can still happen quite frequently that sales numbers still go up after launch, while usually a sales number looks... Nowadays it happens more and more often that the sales really spike a few days after your launch day, because word of mouth is a really strong factor nowadays. What's next? Because there's still a lot you can do after launch. For example, you can gradually increase discounts. Pretty much all games do this. They start out with small discounts like 10%, 15%, 20%, and gradually work their way up. Try to keep your game relevant by updating it, by making some DLC perhaps even. Stay active on social media, enter competitions, do some giveaways, maybe even host your own little contest. Think about porting your game to other platforms. Maybe think about selling some merch or doing some bundles. And by doing all of that, by staying active, you can definitely make sure the sales numbers don't drop off too quickly. Be smart about the next game you want to make. Make sure you leverage the resources you've built, for example, by making a game that allows you to use the same scripts that you've already written, or by using the same player base you already have. Creatively speaking, you can do whatever you want, but in the best case scenario, of course, you want to build up some momentum, go faster and faster, and you don't want to start completely from scratch every single time. I really feel like this is the best game development book for beginners I've ever read. Link is in the description. Go check it out. It is a piece of art. I'm not sponsored. I really just like the book.
I kind of knew you'd mess that up right before the end.
Stop! We need to do something really quick, because in the last video I forgot something very important. Sock reveal. In case you don't know, what sock reveal is? I basically promised you that when we reach 10,000 wishlists on Steam, I would do a sock reveal. I didn't do a sock reveal because I thought you probably don't want to see sock reveal. Apparently you do want to see sock reveals. So here we go. So this is my sock drawer. Yeah, there are not a lot of socks in there. Main reason for that is because I don't really put my clothes into the shelf anymore. I'm too lazy to do that. I think it has some holes. So here we go, here's another sock.
I don't have a hole, yeah. Have you wishlisted Will You Snail already? Have you wishlisted Will You Snail?
Whoa, that sock as well. No,
It cannot be.
no! Oh yeah, this one has a massive hole. Okay, listen to me. At 20,000 wishlists, we will do garbage reveal. I will show you my garbage bin. We just gotta reach 10k more wishlists. So wishlist now, we'll get there very quickly. Glotzbeer, what do you think about people who haven't wishlisted Will You Snail yet? Whoa, 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 whoa. I wouldn't go that far.